welcome to this first edition of this pseudo Friday Night Talk. I don't know, we don't really have a name for it yet, but Will Wibisono saw a need in the character animation department here at CalArts for unity and something for us to listen to so that we can still sort of be edified in some way by our peers during this time in quarantine. Will, do you have a name for this podcast or something? Do you have
Fridays with Friends?
Fridays with Friends. That's basically, because that's all who's going to be on this podcast. I don't even know if we can call this a podcast. It's just a recording, just for our friends. My name is Peter, and I'm a BFA 2 in the CalArts Character Animation Program. Our guest this week is Sanjna Bharadwaj.
Hello.
She is CalArts BFA 3 in the Character Animation Department and a close friend, advocate of all things Brown, as she is requested to have been referred to. And I think I'm just going to let her kind of talk maybe a little bit about herself. Just give us like the brief bio. What's on the Wikipedia page in the personal life section for, or you know what, not even personal life. Let's just go first paragraph. Section? Like the first, well, no, let's just go like first paragraph.
All right,
like
good.
The Wikipedia.
I can do that. Like early life, that's what that section would be. I feel like in personal life, it would be like serial monogamist. Has been in the same relationship since she was 17. I'm from Cupertino, which is that city that pops up on the weather app when you buy your iPhone for the first time. I went to Art Center for a couple of years because I thought I wanted to do Viz Dev, and then I found out that I really hate painting. And I might want to make films. And so then I came to CalArts and I was like, wow, awesome, cool, lovely, I love it. And then I was like, wait a second, I just want to make films all the time. That's what I want to do. And so here I am, making films, making friends.
Cool. This seems like a really stupid intro question, but did you always think you were going to do art?
No. God. No. Something you should know about Cupertino is that nobody really does art here. This is the home of Apple. So growing up, I thought I would be a doctor. I actually really wanted to be a neurosurgeon up until I was like 17. And so for my entire like elementary school, middle school, high school career, all I did was do a lot of math. And then I did like art on the side because I thought it'd be a cool supplement to my UCLA application. That was that. And then senior year, I was like, oh, you know what? Nah, I don't want to do that doctor thing. That doesn't sound like a good plan for me. And so then I switched to animation. My parents, like, I remember first telling them, I remember being like, hey, yo, you know, like, animation's like a career. Like, people make movies. People do that. And they're like, no, they don't. And I was like, yes, they do. Yes, they do. They do this. And so I'm not gonna apply to UCLA at all. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, in fact, I'm not applying to any UCs. I'm just gonna apply to art schools. And I remember just like the look of shock on their faces. It's like I wasn't even speaking English anymore. Like they had never heard these words in this order before. But after a few weeks, they really came around. And like from then on, it's been nothing but support, which I'm really grateful for, honestly.
So you apply to Art Center, you realize you don't like it there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so no, wait, I shouldn't like gloss things over. I should say I did apply to CalArts out of high school. I was rejected. I did apply to CalArts again the next year, and I was still rejected, and I got in on the third time. Important note.
Yeah, that's definitely the case for a lot of us, including myself. I got in on the third try. It's a lot of trying and trying again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you come to CalArts, and I guess what is your impression, I guess, after having been there for just your first year?
After my first year of CalArts, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. You know, for the first time in a really, really long time, I knew that I was in the right place at the right time with the right people. Like, it felt it felt like being rejected the first 2 times were completely, completely worth it to be at CalArts at this specific time. Just because, like, my class is so great, and everyone was just so welcoming. Everyone had their arms, like, just wide open, and we became friends really fast. And that's something I wouldn't trade for the world. And so I'm really happy I was rejected the first 2 times so that I can enter with my class.
One thing I guess that we sort of, failed to mention at the beginning is that you are a story person. You're a story artist.
I am.
That is something, that's like the track that you live or die by. Maybe not. More or less that aspect of it, the just creation and conception of the story. But
yeah.
How did you sort of come into that as like being, because you said that you didn't enjoy painting and you didn't enjoy like rendering in that way. So how did you sort of come to liking story above all the other aspects of filmmaking?
Well, so at Art Center, there's this class that you take your very first semester, and it's like, I forget the exact name of the class. It's like Art Center Now. And in it, like, a bunch of alumni come to visit, and they talk about, like, their different jobs, and they do a little presentation, and it's kind of like, it's like career day, and you're like, oh, maybe when I grow up, I'll do that. And there's this one dude who came by, Ian Abondo, and his Instagram's fucking great. It's so great. But he's, like, the one story artist who's graduated from Art Center and has had a very successful career in story. But he gave this talk where he just pitched over his shitty drawings and clicked through them and made funny noises. And I was like, fuck, I could do that. Like, that sounds so cool. I want to spend my time doing that and not painting a tree for 1,000 hours. And so I just, like, from that moment on, I was like, oh, I that's what I want to do. And there are no classes for that here at Art Center. Time to leave.
That's really cool. And at the end of the first year, you had an internship with Anima, right?
Yeah. That was
story internship, right? At Anima
Studios it was a story
Mexico.
internship at Anima Studios, Mexico City, and it was so much fun. I went with Stella, so she was the other story intern. We were both story interns, and we just had a ball. It's really nice being in a country knowing that everything has been paid for and that you can just live and have a good time. And so that's kind of what we did. We laughed a lot, and we boarded a lot, and we explored a lot. I had a lot to drink. Stella had a little less, but she still had a lot to drink. But yeah, I don't know. You know when you first start off boarding and you're kind of like, man, like, I don't even know what shot comes next. Like, you have this scene and you're like, all right, I did a drawing. That was the first thing that came to mind, and I'm not really sure what drawing comes after this drawing. Where does the camera go? Who knows? I feel like after that first internship, things kind of started making sense to me. Like, where to put the camera became a little bit more intuitive. Just the more storyboarding you do, the better you get at it, really. You know, like, there's only so many things that you can really be taught when it comes to story. Like, there are technical rules, but then at that point, you just kind of have to start boarding and hope for the best. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And when you have a really good director and he's like, no, I want things to be this way, you start to take on his tastes. Then you watch more movies and you start to take on those tastes. And then slowly, step by step, things become more intuitive.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So you end your internship at Anima and you enter into your second year, which was a pretty successful year for you in general. It's the hardest year too, notoriously one of the hardest years at CalArts, from what I've been told. I haven't experienced more than the second, but I guess at the end of that, you came out with this film, this really awesome, funny short film, Bird Boy, and it sort of secured in a way your next internship at Blue Sky. Is that right?
Yeah, Bird Boy, I loved that little dude. It was a lot of fun to make. I laughed a lot just animating it. But so basically when it came down to Blue Sky, I applied, and then sometime second semester they were like, oh hey, you're in the last round. And I was like, whoa, I'm a finalist? Fuck yeah, take that. And then I got rejected. And so I was like, oh, well, damn it. And then after the producers show, I think it was the day of my mid-res review, but like I was having my mid-res review, I kind of had a fever, and then Mayo was like, so, do you have any plans for the summer? And I was like, I don't super know, Maya, because Cartoon Network had also been in talks with me, but they hadn't responded in a while, so I was just like, yeah, I really don't know at this point what I'm gonna be doing for the summer. And then, like, as I was leaving my mid-res review, I get a call, and it was like, hey, this is Sarah from Blue Sky. We just wanted to know that a spot actually opened up. We were wondering if you were still available for the internship. And I was like, you bitches. Yes, I'm still available. God damn it. And so, yeah, that's how that happened. But then, funny thing is, at the internship, I started poking around. I started putting my nose in places it shouldn't be. One of the story artists who actually judges, like, all the portfolios that are submitted, he was like, oh yeah, I remember judging your portfolio. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, pray tell. And then he was like, yeah, so we were all in a room, and we were looking over your portfolio, and then Bird Boy played, and we were like, ha ha ha, that's great, it's so funny, wow, we should take this girl. And then he said, for the life of me, I could not remember who this person was, but I think he was lying. He was like, somebody was sitting at the back of the room, and apparently they were like, that Bird Boy thing's kind of weird. And the rest of the story artists were like, yeah, but, like, it's funny, so, like, we should take her. And that same person was like, yeah, no, I don't know, I'm not really feeling it, kind of weird. And so that's why I wasn't given the spot. And then, when a spot opened up and they decided to reevaluate my portfolio, that same motherfucker who's sitting in the back of the room was like, wow, Bird Boy, I love that shit, we should definitely hire her. And so, I don't know, moral of the story is, like, your work is good enough, everything is good enough, it just depends on if someone had a bad day or not. I remember freshman year, like, I had the idea, the genesis of Bird Boy, and then I started developing it a little bit more, and then I pitched it in my freshman story class, and then my freshman year story teacher said that she didn't like it and that it shouldn't be a film, and then I was like, oh man, maybe you're right, because I didn't know how to stand up for myself. Whoops. Now I really do. And then, so it just kind of was in the back of my mind, and I knew it wasn't going to be my first year film, but then over the summer, I started thinking about it a lot more, and then I started thumbnailing it, and then I just really fell in love with the idea, and then I was like, okay, you know what, it'll be a 1-week film, and that's it. It won't be, like, anything longer, whatever, it'll just be my 1-week film. So then when I came back to school second year, that first week, I started boarding it, and then it took me a week to board it, and I was like, yeah, this isn't a 1-week film, this is a 1-week animatic. And so that was that. And then I played it, and it went over well, I think. I tend to black out when I play things in front of people. I just kind of, like, I don't know, like, my vision goes blurry, and, like, my ears are ringing, like, nothing happens when I play my film. I don't know if anyone's clapping, if anyone's crying, or if people have left. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all relate to as people who have to show our work, that by the nature of our work requires that it be shown somewhere. But yeah, I want to kind of talk about your Blue Sky internship, because it's also it's a tough internship to get, and you were talented enough and made a really great film and were able to get that. I was really interested when you came back over the summer to hear about it. I'm still interested to hear even more about it if you're willing to talk to us a little bit about what your experience was like at Blue Sky. No holds barred.
No, you know what? This is for my friends. What the fuck ever. I would say, like, when you work somewhere for the first time, you learn a lot about what you like, and you learn a lot about what you don't like. And I would say I learned a lot about both. Overall, it was a pretty defining experience in that I really figured out the types of stories that I like telling, and unfortunately, they weren't the types of stories I was seeing at Blue Sky. And so it was kind of disheartening to see, like, the types of stories that do get greenlit, the types of stories that they're currently working on, and just, like, the story decisions that were being made, and how different it was from the independent kind of filmmaking spirit we have at Cal Arts. Like, it's so precious, the spirit of ours, and it felt like it kind of died as soon as it got to Blue Sky. Like, no one there seemed to really have it.
And as far as, I guess, just the logistics of what it was like day to day for you there, was that a lot different from your experiences at Anima? Or
So at Anima, I was working on a production, and go Mexico, because, you know, it's not union. And so they were just like, hey, kid, work on this TV show. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I wasn't even really paid. I was given a stipend. So I wasn't given an hourly wage or any type of salary, which in hindsight, maybe I should have deserved, but also it was a fun time and I broke even, so whatever. But I actually got to work on a production at Blue Sky. The story internship is actually one of the only internships that is assignment based, and so we aren't allowed to work on the productions. So it was mostly like you show up on Monday and they're like all the story instructors get together, and there were only 3 story interns and we had 3 story instructors, and so we were all paired off 1-to-1. And my instructor was Heather Larkin, and she's great. I love her. She's awesome. She's one of the very few female story artists there. And so that was the whole thing. But essentially on Monday, they tell you what your assignment's going to be. You have a week to work on it, and then you pitch on Friday. And I think assignments ended up being like 2 weeks long. So that first week, you pitch a first pass to just the story interns and the story instructors. And then you have a whole nother week to make any changes and tone it and make it like awesome. And then you have, at the end of the second week, you pitch to the entire story department.
it was like that for all the weeks that you were there?
All 10 weeks, yeah.
So you come out of this, you kind of touched on it a little bit before, but I guess like I want to know how you went into this internship really being gung-ho about working in feature.
Yeah.
I remember my first year, we talked a lot about how you had no interest in doing anything else other than working story and feature. And you came out of this internship looking at things a little differently in that way, and as far as what your goals were and how you view the animation industry as a whole. You maybe want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I know going in, I was like, man, all I want to do is work in feature and be in story and be in that story room and throw around gags and be like the one making everyone laugh and all of those things. But at the end of the day, it didn't really matter to me because none of the stories and the films they were making resonated with me at all, you know? And I think that's far more important to me, to work on something I really believe in. And coming out of the internship, I was like, you know what, like, and this is a conversation I had with Liam a lot. Liam's a fellow BFA 3 here at Cal Arts in character animation. And I remember like halfway through the internship, I couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, man, like none of this is the way I thought it was going to be at all. And so I remember like walking outside and just like sobbing over the phone to Liam. And he was like, yeah, man, like this is how feature animation is in this country. This is how it is. But what you gotta know is that it's a day job. You know, like you shouldn't have to wait 25 years to direct Toy Story 6. And that is kind of the way things are looking in feature animation. What you should be doing is working whatever day job that you can, learning as much as you can from it, and then you should be going home and working on your own shit immediately. If you are a director, you need to direct. Go home and direct. Don't wait for the studio to give you permission to direct. And so coming out of the internship, it really solidified for me that I have no loyalty to any company, to any corporation, to feature, to TV, to whatever the industry wants. I have a loyalty to what I want to make, and that comes first. And so I really learned to separate my work and the stuff I want to be making from my day job.
Yeah, I think that's really admirable. I think that's something that a lot of people, including myself, do when they get to Cal Arts, is that they have this very fixed idea of what it's going to be like to work in this industry, and then slowly, and in your case rather quickly, you sort of learn that that's not what the case is at all. I mean, you're going to work, you might be able to work on those things, but it might not be as creatively fulfilling as you would hope it would be.
Yeah.
And some people are okay with that, but I think that for the majority of the people that go to Cal Arts, part of the reason that Cal Arts is so special is that everybody here has this real desire to express something that they can only express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels very kind of bad to realize that that's not what it's going to be like if you want to work on those major features.
Absolutely. And
Go ahead.
No, and the thing is, like, it's not like any one singular person's fault. Like, it's not the director's fault that Toy Story 6 got made. It's not the story artist's fault. It's not the artist's fault at all. Like, they are all trying so desperately to make good films. And that's something else that I found really frustrating, is that the choices that they wanted to make were immediately squashed by this giant corporation. You know, like, they wanted to move the story in a certain way that was objectively better than what they had, but the corporation said no. And, like, what are you going to do at that point? Because they'll just replace you.
Yeah, that's really kind of hard to hear, I imagine.
Yeah, no, it, again, learned a lot about what I liked and learned a lot about what I didn't like.
Yeah, that leads me to my next question. So where does that sort of leave you as far as, I know you spoke in kind of broad strokes, but like, what does that sort of mean for you and the rest of your time here at Cal Arts? And is that something you're working towards being able to do, to just basically what Liam was talking about, being able just to have some sort of day job that you work in probably her field, I'm assuming is what you're talking about, and then being able to make your own stuff? Is that sort of what you're trying to work towards?
Yeah, that's definitely what I see my plan being, you know? Like, as of right now, I'm still in school. Nothing matters. Like, I'm going to just continue to make as many films as I can. I'm going to continue to watch a lot of movies and just continue to try and be the best filmmaker I can be and just learn as much as I can. When I graduate, would love to work as a screenwriter in animation. Would love to work as a story artist in animation. You know, whoever will hire me. Like, as long as I can laugh at work, that's kind of all that really matters for my day job, and maybe learn a little bit. But yeah, I want to be working with you guys. I want to be working with my friends on my own time to be making stuff. I want to be submitting to film festivals. I want to be applying to fellowships. And then I just want to be making my own films, like, on the weekends.
We've talked a lot about, I guess, your experiences and mentioned a film that you made, but just, I know that you do a lot of writing, and that's something you're really passionate about too. And I kind of wanted to delve into what kind of stories you like to write and what kind of stories you like to tell, because I know that's a topic that's pretty near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
In general.
I like telling stories about brown people. There, I said it. Yeah. It's just, I mean, what am I gonna do? Like, tell a story about a white guy? Like, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. There are no stories about, you know, just people like me, people like my parents, people like my family. And I feel like there's so much humor in people like my parents. And I would love to tell stories about them, you know, and really share it with the world and make people laugh and make people just understand what it's like to be a brown dad of 2 rebellious daughters, or to be a brown mom. You know, there's a lot to say, and there's so much to say about it, and no one's saying it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And your stories always have like a really, like, you mentioned how funny a lot of these situations that you find yourself in with your parents and with, I guess, the people that you interact with. Your stories always have like a really great sense of comedic timing and comedic humor.
Thanks.
I don't know if I've ever read a story of yours that was just completely dramatic. Like, you're very into the comedic aspect of writing, and I think that's really, and you're really good at it too. And so I always really enjoy reading your pieces, even the ones that, not even the ones, but I especially like the ones that you never really even bored, like scripts that you've made for Nicole's class. Nicole Panter, amazing screenwriting teacher.
Love Nicole
Cowlines.
Panther.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about all the time that we have for this week's episode. Well, I guess I do want to end on this one fun question. Is there something that you enjoy doing outside of drawing and writing? Is there something that, especially now that like things are kind of slowing down or have slowed down pretty significantly in our lives due to the, the whole having to stay at home all the time thing? Is there something that you've been doing more of or
Oh, you're gonna hate me. Oh man.
I'm gonna hate you?
Yeah, the moment campus shut down, the first thing I did was go to Barnes and Noble and buy an Algebra 2 book and a trigonometry book.
Oh
and so
my god.
I've been doing some more math because I'd like to eventually relearn calculus because I miss it. And so I was like, well, if I have to relearn calculus, then I gotta start at the basics, meaning algebra 2 and trig. So yeah.
Well, that is a wild. That's such a wild thing to start doing. Everybody I know is like baking sourdough bread.
I
like,
hate baking.
Like, I don't know,
I'm so bad
just
at baking. I'm
and
shit
you're
at
over here
baking.
learning algebra and
I hate
and
cooking.
calculus.
I hate cooking. I hate baking. In terms of like wholesome things that I'm doing, I play badminton with my sister. I've been watching a lot of movies. I've been reading more. That's great. But yeah, in terms of like something I specifically picked up because of quarantine, it was math. Like creativity comes in little bursts and so does motivation. And now's not a good time. It's a really objectively shitty time. And if that burst of motivation isn't happening, you shouldn't punish yourself for that. Like, it's just not happening. It's okay. And so it hasn't been happening for me. Like, I have not really been able to work on my film as much as I'd like to. Like, I sit down and you can't do it. And so what I've been trying to do is just take it day by day, be like, okay, there are certain things that I'd like to get done each day. And some of them are as small as taking out my cat's shit. Like, that is on my daily to-do list. I still have daily to-do lists for myself because I don't like going like about my day and not checking things off because that's like as much productivity as I need to just function as a human being. But that's just me personally. So I'll put things on my to-do list like taking out the litter, making my bed, doing the laundry once a week, reading for 30 minutes, algebra for 30 minutes, watching this movie, calling this person, and I just take it day by day.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, and I think that's something that y'all kind of need to hear. I as much as I hate the alone together thing, I don't know why I despise hearing that, but it is always really helpful to hear that it is really hard for most people to try and make themselves do things during this time. And on that terribly sad and depressing note, I think we are going to end this week's first episode. I guess so. I mean, I don't have any more questions. It's been 45 minutes. Sanjna, you've been really great. Thank you so much for being the first guest on this Friday night pseudo talk, this bastardization of the Friday night talks. We'll find some new name for it eventually or something.
We need something less lame than Fridays with Friends. We need something badass.
Yeah, Fridays with Friends, it's the alliterative aspect of it. It works really well. We'll work on it. We'll spitball some names, but until then...
We need something that, like, gets people's attention. Like, fetishy Fridays with Friends.
Oh...